What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Microgreens Farmer. I've got a special episode today. I've been doing a lot of projects behind the scenes right now, and one of them is the Microgreens Mastermind group. This is a group that meets a couple times a month, and we discuss topics relating to running a profitable microgreens business. We've got different coaches on there, 4 different coaches that kind of host the meetings along with myself, and then we have all the members that ask questions in the chat box, and they're just a great time. And this is a membership only thing where people pay, and you get half off if you're an online course member to the Microgreens business course. But I wanted to just put one up here on YouTube and just let you guys view a full mastermind meeting. We've done 3 meetings now. I've got the 4th one coming up tomorrow night as of the recording of this. We keep all the recordings in a members area where people can re-watch them, but I thought it'd be cool to put one up here so you guys could see what it's like. And there's a ton of value in this actual mastermind meeting. I think there's one idea, concept that we talked about that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone starting a microgreens business. I think it could be it's a massive opportunity in this market. And people like freaked out in the comments while we were talking about this. So I can't wait for you guys to hear about that. So this is a long video, but I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And if you guys are interested in joining the Microgreens Mastermind group, you can go to microgreensfarmer.com/mastermind. And I'll put that link below this description as well. You can get signed up there. And like I said, if you're a course member, you get half off. And if you're a course member, you go to the discount section of the online course, and you go to that part of the portal and you log in there, and that's where you can sign up for the mastermind at half off. So with that said, we'll do the quick intro, and then I'll play the full mastermind meeting from last week's meeting. Enjoy.
All right, starting with farmers markets, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just start talking about farmers markets first. And Don, what did you put when you wrote me on farmers markets? Something about if they are profitable or how they're profitable, or?
Well, it's interesting because the value of a farmers market isn't just the revenue that you would bring in from the customers that come to your table. It's also a lot of brand awareness and the potential of repeat customers and recruiting customers into your CSA. So farmers markets are a ton of work. Anybody who's doing them knows that. You got to harvest your product, whether it's the morning of or the day before, and you got to pack all that stuff into your car, everything else you need for the market, your displays, banners, tents, maybe a chair. I sit on my cooler. And then you got to get there half hour or an hour before to set up, and then you're there for quite a few hours. And then you have to break down and bring it all home. So it's a lot of work, and it's not perfectly efficient because while you're there, there's going to be some downtime where maybe there's a customer not at your table. And you're kind of just standing there waiting for somebody to come over. So there's a lot of time that goes into it. And I think it's important to understand the value of your time when you're doing these markets. It's not just the cost of your products. It's all that time that goes into doing the market as a whole, before, during, and after. So I know Mish is the market master. You've been the market manager in your town, and not only the market manager, but also working at the farmers market as well. So I bet you have a lot of good input here as well.
I liked that the first thing that you said or talked about was kind of the value in participating in farmers markets, and you nailed it. It's not just monetary, and this is something I frequently comment on, in the Facebook group when people bring up farmers markets, and particularly the question of whether or not a farmers market is worth it. Um, and you can go to a farmer's market and you can make $100 and meet 50 new people who might buy from you next week. Or you can go to the farmer's market and maybe you make $700, you know, but it each has its own value that you're bringing home. And something that I always tell vendors from a manager perspective, and particularly frustrated vendors, because maybe they're not making enough money, is that they should be using it as much for meeting new customers and, like you say, brand awareness, marketing your product and your brand, and just trying to be a presence in your community. Going to a farmer's market once, not selling very much, and kind of giving up on a farmer's market isn't doing yourself any good, and it's really wasting your time. I try to encourage vendors to commit to at least one full season, you know, and however that works for you. Maybe it only works that you can go every other week, or even once a month or a couple of times a month. Just being a continual presence at the market, so you're giving people the opportunity to get to know you. And a key thing to remember also with that is that not every shopper is going to every single farmer's market. So you're always going to have that opportunity to meet new people and introduce new people to your business and the products that you're selling. So in the end, you could do a whole summer, say, of farmers markets and really not bring home a ton of cash profit. But you could be building your customer repertoire for your winter CSA program that might bring you in thousands of dollars. That's what we did. And now our winter CSA program is actually kind of more successful than our summer one, to be honest. And we get a ton of customers in the winter, which is great because that's primarily when our farm focuses on microgreens, is in the winter. But yeah, so really using farmers markets to build relationships with your customers. And so then it kind of makes sense that the next thing that follows is you need to interact with people. You know, like it's one thing to stand there and look nice and you have nice product and you smile at people, but if you're not talking to people, you're not going to build those relationships and you're not going to sell your product. Lots of times a product will sell itself, and once people know what your product is, it will sell itself. But how many people out there don't even know what microgreens are? My farm's pretty lucky. We primarily sell vegetables in the summertime. So we bring people in because we have shiny red tomatoes and whatever, you know, vegetables that everybody knows, that attract people to our table. Most people who come to our table still don't know what microgreens are. And they'll pick up a bag of our micros or look at a tray of our micros and they're like, oh, what's that? So having that confidence to engage with people and kind of bring them in with the conversation that you're going to have with them about, you know, microgreens and what they are and why they need to buy them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talking to people is super important. You're building relationships with these people, you're building relationships with your community, and it works both ways. If there could be people walking through a farmer's market that might be, you know, down on their luck, or they might be really sad, and they might walk through a farmer's market looking to talk with people. And then if nobody talks to them, you know, that kind of stinks. But you could be a vendor that goes out of your way to talk to them. And now not only are you providing value for them with your products, but you're also providing value for them emotionally. And that can be a very important aspect of your business, because I mean, we're doing this. I mean, I'm doing this to help people. I think a lot of people are doing that as well. And that's a really great way to build relationships and feel a part of your community, and also to allow others who are at the market to feel a part of the community as well. And another added value of getting into those long conversations at the farmer's market is when you have somebody standing at your table, other people walking at the market are more likely to come over to your table. If your table's empty, I think people naturally assume like, oh, you know, that's not the spot to be, or, you know, something like that. But if you have somebody, or even 2 or 3 people who are at your table, that looks really good. And you're able to interact with multiple people at the same time. share your information with multiple people, and then your tent looks hopping and more people come over. So that's definitely what you want to be doing, is communicating with these people and interacting for sure.
That's a good point. And I think it's when there's no one at your table and you're sitting there, it's a little intimidating for them to walk up because they feel like they might immediately get a sales presentation. But if you're kind of already interacting with other people, they can kind of just come up, and look and feel like they don't need to immediately engage too.
Absolutely.
So keeping people there is definitely valuable.
Yeah.
Another thing I would add to that too, is if you have, say, a business partner or an employee, or maybe you run your business with your partner or husband or wife or whatever, if you guys can come together, so there's two of you behind your table. My partner and I are recently discovering how much more that benefits us, because sometimes a customer does want to have a really long conversation, but that can bite you in the butt sometimes, because then there's three other people that are waiting really patiently to talk to you or buy something. And if you end up talking too long to somebody, maybe you're going to lose another customer or something. They might walk away. So we've recently learned that having both of us there is really, really beneficial, because one of us can, get into those longer conversations if it appears that somebody is really kind of going down the road of asking a lot of questions or something. And then whoever's not talking can focus on making sales or bringing in more people, to chat and ask questions and stuff like that. So just a consideration. We also, we have 4 kids, so our kids are running around the farmers market. They're in and out of our tent, and that in and of itself engages with people. And I think it adds a bit of chillness to our market booth, so people are less intimidated. Not saying that we're using our kids, but maybe kind of. But it just people don't necessarily think you're going to jump on them to buy something, when kids are around. Or one of my kids is outwardly social and he greets customers all the time. And so it's a neat atmosphere and a cool way to engage with people too. Because oftentimes people are coming with their kids, right? So kids talk to kids, and, it brings more people into your booth.
Yeah, that's super smart. I remember having scenarios where it was me and my girlfriend likes to come along and hang out at the farmers markets. And that did allow me the opportunity to have conversations with people, but then the other people who come to the market just to go, boom, I want my bread, my microgreens and whatever, they can come, just throw their money down, and they can get in and out as well. So that's definitely a good way to do it, is having multiple people there.
Another important thing too, and we're kind of jumping from point to point, but I think that's okay. A really great way to bring people into your booth without saying anything at all is the signage that you use. And I think this is something that in a way can make or break a vendor. I've been managing farmers markets in British Columbia for 6 years. And I've been mentoring other managers for the past 2 years. And so this is something that I always talk about with other managers that they can use to help their vendors, or if I'm working with vendors, this is always something I bring up, is their signage. There's a lot of people who want to know what you're selling and for how much before they even walk up to your booth. And even to take that a step farther, people want to see how much your microgreens cost in comparison to the microgreens 5/10 down, or whatever product. Money and how much money people are spending is at the forefront of their mind, right? When they come, it's just like shopping at the grocery store. A lot of people go into the grocery store and think I have $60 and I have 50 things I need to get. How am I going to get this? How am I going to get this all? And they compare prices and all that stuff. And so having really clear signage that people can read, both, expressing what your business is, your business name, your logo, whatever, as well as maybe having a fancy chalkboard, again, that talks about microgreens and lists your, the different varieties that you have and for how much, having signage up that really goes into talking about what microgreens are and how they're grown, and what their benefits are. Having this all in really like clear, concise, definitely beautiful and attractive, but more so easy to read for people, you know, who can see it from a distance too. I think is really, really important. And that in and of itself will bring a lot of people into your booth and kind of ease that awkwardness, initial potential awkwardness between you and new customers, you know, when you're engaging with people for the first time, because they already know what they're coming to talk to you about because they've seen it on your signs, and it gives them an opportunity to form questions and stuff that they want to ask you to learn more. And yeah, so signage is really important. I see a lot of people posting in the Facebook group like what their booth looks like at the farmers market. And I think there's a lot of people in the Facebook group who are nailing their signage and their display, and it looks fantastic. And then I think there's also a lot of people who maybe aren't nailing, you know, with the signage and stuff, and just putting in this little bit of extra time and effort to make good signage and have a really neat and tidy and attractive display, you know, with your tables and table decor, tablecloths, whatever, is really, really important, and it will do a lot for bringing people to your booth.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do either of you have any experience offering samples or have any opinions about offering samples of microgreens as a way to kind of bring people into your booth?
The way I did samples actually is I brought a few trays to the market. I wasn't cutting at the market. I was just selling prepackaged. But what I would do is I would just take off a microgreen from the tray and hand it to them just like that. And there's a few reasons why I like that. One, people can see exactly how the product is growing. So not only do you have samples there, but you can also show them exactly how they're growing, how they grow in the trays, because it's a little different than people expect produce to grow. And two, the trays that I would bring were for the next day that I would be harvesting. So the microgreens would be a little bit smaller. And in my opinion, they're a little bit tastier when they're a little smaller as well. So that was cool. And then there was a third thing too that I think I'm forgetting. But yeah, that's kind of how I did it, and it worked pretty well.
For us, and one thing to note is check your health regulations wherever you are, because a lot of times that will dictate how you can do samples at the market. And I know we're a little luckier up here than you guys in the US. I think your regulations are quite a lot stricter on microgreens than they are for us in BC. And most of Canada, actually. If you're from Canada, chances are microgreens are considered what we call a low risk product. So there's really no regulation around microgreens at all. Anyways, so what we do is we snip our microgreen samples in advance, and we have these kind of nice wooden bowls, and we just put our different varieties in wooden bowls, and each bowl has a set of tongs, and we encourage people just to grab a couple and put it right into their hand and try it. And that's how we do samples. And for us, we find that really helps sell our premium flavors. You know, for example, wasabi. A lot of people don't want to buy wasabi. They're intimidated by it just because it's called wasabi. But once they try it, they realize, yeah, like it definitely has some spice to it, but it's not, you know, what they thought it was going to be. And then they love it and they buy some. So having samples, and particularly I think too, for people who have never tried microgreens, it gives them a surprise. In my opinion, microgreens, they're awesome, right? Like people don't expect them to have such a strong flavor, and they do, almost all of them. And people, I find, are almost always surprised. They're like, whoa, that really packs a punch of flavor. And they're not expecting, you know, the peas to taste exactly like peas, or the wasabi. Like the wasabi tastes precisely like the wasabi, and that catches them off guard in a good way, and encourages them to want to buy these and, you know, figure out how to eat them. And it doesn't take very long for us, a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and those people are coming back, and all of a sudden they eat these microgreens on everything, and they can't live without them. So samples are an awesome way to introduce people to microgreens, and people who are already buying microgreens, get them to try new flavors that they haven't tried before. Yeah.
Mish, what you said actually reminded me of my third point. So you cut your microgreens and put them in bowls, and that's how you sample?
Yeah.
So that was another reason why I liked taking it off the tray, was because it was perfectly fresh.
Right.
They weren't sitting out. They weren't harvested before. It was like literally living right from the tray.
Yeah.
Do you have any problems with your microgreens kind of like wilting during the day?
A little bit. Basically, for us, what we're doing is sort of sacrificing a certain amount, so we might take a tray of each variety, or sometimes we'll actually grow like sample trays where we'll mix varieties in the tray, so we have a bunch of different kinds in a tray, so it's a less quantity that we're sacrificing. But we put a small amount in the bowl and like keep the backup in a cooler, top up the bowl when it empties, and if it looks like it's getting wilted or just kind of yucky, we just toss it and put fresh ones in. The benefit of for us is that our farmers market is also only 3 hours long.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it's super quick. People are coming because it's only a 3-hour market. People come fast. We have about 2 hours where we're like go, super, super busy. And most of the time, the samples that we have out are getting tasted like fast enough that they're not going bad. Different scenario if you're at a farmer's market, say that runs 8 to 2 or 9 to 3, a 6-hour market or something like that. You might want to consider doing, snipping off a live tray. But also, that's something that we can't do here is snip as like samples as people want them. Any samples that you have out have to be prepared at home. And it doesn't matter if that is microgreens or if, say, you're sampling radishes that you grew in your garden, or you're sampling muffins that you baked, or it doesn't make a difference what your sample is. It has to be all cut up and put into containers and stuff like that at home. You can't do it on site at the market. That's considered processing, I guess, and that's a stipulation that our health authority has made. I also find it easier to do it at home and just have it all cut and ready. But again, that really caters to the flow at my market. Like I say, we have a super busy 2 hours, and it's faster for us to have the micros out in sample bowls and ready, and people can just like help themselves. So I think it's really good to consider, what's happening at your market, and are you at a long market? Are you at a short market? Is your market super, super hot all the time? And how are you going to keep your samples fresh? One thing I might consider doing is, just having almost like a tray with ice in it or something, and then you could put your sample dishes in there, and that would help keep them relatively cool. Yeah.
Cool. I think placement in the market too is important with regards to sun and heat and all that. I know one of the market managers here on Long Island, like she tries to put all the produce away from where the sun's going to be hitting. But nevertheless, of course the sun is going to move around, and at one point or another, it's going to get you. So one thing I see some of the farmers doing is they put these, it's almost like a mesh net or like a screen, and they kind of clamp it on their tent on one of the walls where the sun would be hitting. So it kind of blocks the sun from actually coming into the tent. It looks like that works pretty well.
And you can move that around too as the sun moves.
Mm-hmm.
Where our tent is at our market, we get the sun coming in the back, and then it moves to the side and hits like kind of a whole table of our product. You get to know the sun though, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, or for us it's 4 in the afternoon, the sun's going to be over here now. And so for us, like I say, we're in the same spot every week. So we can plan for that and be prepared for that. A lot of farmers will, if they have, lettuce and stuff like that, they bring spray bottles that have ice water in there, and they mist their vegetables. I've often wondered if people, you know, who have live trays of micros, if they get affected or anything like that, if they would miss them to help keep cool, or samples and that kind of a thing. So I've never tried that.
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can experiment and try and add value at farmers markets. I think that really is kind of the name of the game, is figuring out ways to make it more valuable for you. And one of those ways is just doing it over time, you know, consistently, and building that customer base is a huge thing. Both of you guys kind of talked about. And also, you know, you could get lucky and just be in a city where there's huge demand and you can move a lot of product and make a good living right off the bat. But for most people, it's it's more of a situation where you might make a couple $100 or break even, and you really got to look for ways to increase the value of your time there. And there's so many ways to do that, as we've mentioned here. Even for us, like just bringing our kids there, so our kids are learning about, you know, running a business and handling money and math. Just that is one thing that's adding value to us. You know, it's hard to measure all the various ways that there's value built into the farmers market. But I would say if you're just selling products there, try and think of other things you can do, like getting people on your email list is a great thing, I think, to do at the farmers market to keep the relationship going with people that stop by your stand. If you have other produce you can sell, that might be a good reason to do the farmers market, even if you can't make enough off microgreens. If you have a lot of other stuff to sell, like we had flowers, we would have been there regardless, because my wife was, you know, had tons of flowers to try and move every week. Yeah, and I also noticed at the farmers markets is a lot of them have food cart vendors as well. And a lot of those food cart vendors would end up opening restaurants in our town. And if they're at the same market as you, you know, you can bring them microgreens right when they're first getting started and open that relationship up. They want to buy from the vendors that are right there. So we did that with several of them, where we started selling them microgreens at the very beginning, and then 2 of them opened restaurants in town like within a year or 2 after being at their first farmers markets. And it just, you know, we just keep going and build relationships from the ground up.
I'll add a couple of comments to what you've said about the email list. It's a really good point. So we always have an email list sign up sheet that's attached to a clipboard with a pen, and that's always on our table for, like, at every market for people to sign up. And then the other thing is we advertise our CSA program right at the farmers market. So we have really nice, clear signage at the appropriate time of year. So our CSA fills up both for winter and for summer. So when we are promoting the sign up period, you know, we have the signage out at the farmers market, as well as we try to get everybody to sign up online, and we don't have to deal with paper, but we always have copies of our CSA, like membership agreement, and paper copies of our sign up form as well, because there are people who prefer to do it that way still. So it's a really great way to get CSA signups. So you want to have as much information about that as possible out when you do run your, you know, your sign up period. That was one thing I wanted to say. Oh, and I forgot the other thing I was going to say. What did you talk about after that?
Let me see. I was looking at my notes. Let me see here.
Talked about the email list.
So marketing to new restaurants that are just getting in there. I don't know if that was the thing.
Yeah, so it's a really awesome thing to do. Go introduce yourself to whoever is selling hot food. We have a regular flow of hot food vendors that kind of rotate through our market, and almost all of them now come to the produce vendors right as soon as they get there to see what we have, and they purchase product right on the spot to use on their menu like that day. And then, like Nate said, often these folks end up opening restaurants, and then you've already built a relationship with them. They already know who you are and what you sell. So that was a really, really good point. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. Like, just go introduce yourself. Say this is what you grow. This is what you offer. You do sell wholesale to food businesses and yeah, get your foot in the door with them. And then the other thing I was going to say with that is, you might find that you don't sell out of product at the farmer's market. For us, we primarily sell microgreens. Well, we almost always just sell microgreens pre-bagged. And if we did this a lot at the beginning, and now we sell out of microgreens very quickly. But at the beginning, when we didn't, we would have products left over. We used, it's a perishable product, so you want to do something with it, and why not use it to get your product out there? So for example, when we have live musicians play at our market, and a lot of vendors donate product as a tip for them, because they're busking. And so why not throw in a bag of microgreens if you have microgreens left over? You're sharing your product with people who probably are going to come buy it after that. Also, barter with it. Go up, if there's a vendor who's set up next to you who doesn't grow microgreens, but maybe they bake the best bread ever and they have bread left over, ask them if they want to trade. And then all of a sudden, you're giving out your product to more people. It's leftover product at the end of the market. If you don't have anywhere for it to go anyways, it's just going to go bad. Or obviously we all try to eat it, but maybe it's too much. Who knows? Like this is marketing as well. It's like your product in hand that you're using to market, not a flashy picture on Facebook. So think of it that way, as a new way to introduce people to your product. I just have to plug my computer in before it shuts off. One second.
I want to also, Don in the very beginning talked about the time involved in going to the farmer's market and the time involved in preparing your product to go, preparing all your tent and your stands, and getting everything rounded up and packed up, and then unpacking it and setting it all up. Can be quite a bit, and I highly suggest you take the time to think about how you're making that whole process efficient. And is there some way you can stage that setup, or even keep it staged? Like, for a year, we were doing just the salad cycle. I don't know if anyone's seen the YouTube video we did on that, but that was super efficient. Our bike trailer was already loaded with the stuff we needed. We would just throw our rack on our bike and throw our live trays on the trailer, and we'd be out the door in, 15 minutes. So we minimize the setup time as much as possible. So maybe you have a spare vehicle or van or something, you can just keep it loaded with your farmer's market supplies and just organize them real good when you're unloading, when you're packing away your market, and then pack them back up. And also checklists are really helpful. We have the farmer's market checklist in the course. Just go through that thing, check it off, because if you show up there and you forget some big item, man, it can be really stressful having to turn around and run back home, or call for someone else to bring up your items. So yeah, try and make that as efficient as possible, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was doing farmers markets, I'm taking summer off, but I had a backpack where I had a bunch of materials in it. So I had a folder with the sign-up sheet, the email sheet. I had my business cards in there. I had pens in there. I had the tablecloth in there. And I also had seed packs in there because I was selling the seed packs to people to grow their own sprouts. So having everything kind of already ready to go the night before is a great way to be extra efficient the next morning.
Yeah, what we do is, just to give you guys another idea too, is we have totes, so like blue Rubbermaid totes, and we've written on it with black Sharpie, farmers market toolkit, just so we know what it is. It's always the same, so it has our CSA information or our signage, extra pens, there's tape in there, there's string in there, there's scissors in there. We have a binder that we keep our market inventory sheets in, because we always take a pre-market inventory and post-market inventory, as well as a bunch of other stuff in this binder. We have information sheets about microgreens and other products that we sell, and we hand those out to some people if they want them, or we put them on display. But yeah, basically all our tablecloths are in there. Everything that you would need for your farmer's market is in your farmer's market toolkit, tote or backpack like Dawn uses. And then having a checklist, you know, just to make sure that you don't forget anything. We've all forgotten stuff, and it's always chaotic when you're at the market and you're like, shit, where's my string or whatever, you know. So just, yeah, being organized ahead of time, you're going to be way more efficient the day of.
And it's an ongoing learning process. It takes
Absolutely.
time. It takes time to keep getting better at this stuff. You can't expect to have everything dialed in your first market. You know, you're going to learn how the weather affects your sales. You're going to learn, you know, the right materials to bring and the stuff to leave home. You're going to learn how to talk to customers better and relate to them and kind of mirror their body language. And, you know, it's just a learning experience. And the first year is typically the most challenging. The first one can be pretty scary. But it's a really good feeling, especially if you're doing this by yourself and, you know, you're in your grow room all week and you're kind of isolated. Just getting out there and interacting with your customers, and it makes it more meaningful going back and doing the work, because you know the people, and you can actually relate to what you're selling to real people. It just, having that is really critical as well, I think.
Absolutely. I'll second that too. Like, so right now in the summertime, we're primarily growing vegetables, but we still grow microgreens through the summer. We just grow a heck of a lot more of them in the wintertime. But we could be, you know, out on the farm having a bad day, or for us right now, like, it's been a really cold, rainy summer, and we're just like begging for hot sun. It's July and it is cold here for us, you know, so it's been a tricky season. But like Nate says, you know, like we have so many great relationships with customers. They come to every farmer's market now, and if they miss the farmer's market, they come to our weekend farm stand because they want our product, and it motivates you. It motivates you through difficult times, and it builds value in your business that has nothing to do with money, because you see these people who are so happy and they want your product. For example, like with microgreens, that was the one crop of ours that went literally sideways when I had a baby 3 weeks ago. It was a bit of an interesting time, and we kind of had to rush out, like that sometimes happens when you're having a baby. And we were gone for the weekend, and the one thing that we forgot to do was unstack our trays of micros before we rushed out the door. And when we came home 3 days later, they were sideways on the floor, right? Because they all got pushed up and everything fell over. And so we lost basically our next 3 weeks of microgreens for a good reason. But still, we had customers coming to those 3 weeks of farmers markets saying, oh my God, where's your microgreens? Why don't you have any microgreens? And we had all these other beautiful greens, but they didn't want those. They wanted the micros. And it was really awesome just to see. It was awesome and refreshing to see and hear from these people how much they value our product. You know, and that's after probably about 2 years of us selling in this community. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty awesome. And that's from being at the farmer's market and having that face-to-face regular contact with these people.
That's really interesting to hear that they wanted your microgreens, especially over all your other greens. I think that people are starting to really realize how freaking convenient they are as a green, man. People are so busy. I used to sell them more on their health benefits and flavor and stuff like that, but more and more, man, it's convenience people want, and they just love how easy they are to cook with and throw on their dishes. So I say just to push that into people's minds and let them try it out and experience that.
That's a really good point. I've never marketed them as like a convenient way to eat. And I think that's everything. Everybody's so busy all the time that is a huge selling point that I've never even thought about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so many people say like, oh, I just put them on everything. Like, it's such an easy way to eat greens. And It's true. I even have customers now who they put them like at the top in their fridge, at the top of their door when the fridge door opens, and they don't even keep, like, they're in a bag, they don't keep a twist tie on them, they just kind of wrap it closed just so that they can just reach in and grab a scoopful and eat it, like on their way past the fridge or something. I've had a number of people say that that's how they eat their microgreens.
Honestly,
like I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome.
yeah, my customers as well. Some of them finish it before they even leave the market. They're just eating
Right.
microgreens out of the container.
It's popcorn.
Yeah, some of my customers are bringing them on the road. Like that's what they eat as a snack as they're driving. It's really funny.
Super funny.
That's awesome.
One other thing I was going to suggest too, like about products that you have left over at the farmer's market, you know, you can dish it out and share with people to get your product out there. Another good thing to consider doing is you could always donate it to the food bank. But we've done that a handful of times and it's always very well received. We always try to bring enough to donate to food bank clients and the food bank volunteers. That makes them pretty happy. But then another thing too is we're talking about offering other things for sale at your table that can help draw people in. There's always conversation in the Facebook group about making microgreen pesto. And I don't know about you guys, but pesto is like a rapid fire seller at my farmer's market. I can't make enough pesto. And we sell it for a high price. Like we sell, we put it in like the small mason jars, like either 125 milliliter, 250 milliliter ones, so the smallest one. And we sell them for $9. Like
wow.
Yeah, and they like sell like hotcakes. So one thing is to check your health regulations, because in a lot of places pesto is a high risk product. In British Columbia, the way that we get away with it being a high risk product is we don't use, well, we do use garlic sometimes, but at this time of year right now, we use garlic scapes. So, you know, like the curly thing that grows at the flower bud of garlic, basically. And we also freeze it. We don't process it. So we don't seal the mason jars. We freeze it. It's the one processed food product that I've done in mason jars and frozen that doesn't crack the glass mason jar. I think it's because the oil that's in there. Anyway, so then we have our pesto in a cooler and we sell it as a frozen product, and we make a lot of money off pesto.
Interesting. And are you processing that in your home or in a kitchen?
Yeah, no, at our house.
And that's allowed with the regulations and everything?
Yeah.
Do you have like a home food processor license or no?
No.
Interesting. Okay. Canada is definitely different than America for sure.
Yeah, and often I read things in the Facebook group posted by people from the US, and I'm like, oh my God, the regulations you guys face is wild in some instances and tricky.
Yeah.
To navigate. But that's why I say definitely check the regulation in your community. And remember that there is different ways to make pesto. If you can get bulk garlic scapes, you know, at this time of year when they're ready, and that maybe that would move the product from high risk to low risk like it does for us. You can make a ton of pesto at this time of year with microgreens. You know, you plan for it and grow them for that specific reason. And bam, you've created this new product that you can sell. But not only are you selling pesto to people, but you're selling a recipe idea to people who might buy your fresh microgreens to make pesto.
What microgreens are you using in the pesto?
We really like to use radish and arugula, so some that have a bit of spice to them. But we will throw anything in there. Sunflowers work really well.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't put microgreens in my pesto, I usually use sunflower seeds in my pesto. So stubbing in sunflower microgreens works really well. But yeah, pretty much anything. We also put greens from our garden in. So we put kale and radish tops and turnip tops and beet greens, everything like that into our pesto. I also recommend experimenting with different herbs. So I feel like, I mean, at least where I'm from, a lot of people associate pesto with basil. You know, basil has to be the herb. It doesn't. Try rosemary. Rosemary makes epic pesto. True. And just experiment. Like any green can go into pesto. Just think outside the box.
And your customers are happy with like a little bit of a different product each week? Do they prefer that, or do they have any preference?
Definitely some have preferences for sure. You know, they want this specific variety or flavor. But I'm pretty good at selling stuff now, so I can sell anything almost to people.
Cool.
And just encourage them to try different stuff. Like, I don't know. I'm really trying to push like seasonality on people, like seasonal eating, you know, with our veggies. Like, let's not buy corn on the cob right now because it's not ready in our area, kind of idea. And so that kind of goes, we can push that into microgreens too, you know, like basically having seasonal offerings. For us, we struggle growing some of like the finer microgreens when it's like super hot in the summer, like it's really hot and humid at the end of July and August, and it totally skews the way our microgreens grow, we find. So things like broccoli and kale, like the daintier microgreens, tend to not do as well at that time of year for us. So we kind of switch it up and we grow hardier ones, you know. And so we encourage our customers to just embrace what we have and ask questions, you know, maybe there's a reason why we don't have that right now, and gives us an opportunity to teach people about what grows when and why, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Do you guys use a special recipe for your pestos, or you just kind of do it free form?
Basically what I say is experiment, but never sacrifice the quality of the oil that you're using. So we always use like a high quality olive oil, and that sets the base for your pesto. But basically we're just throwing in what we've got. And it depends on how much we have of certain things as well. But I think I could definitely come up with a pretty solid recipe to share with everyone if that's something people are keen for.
Yeah, we're the same. We make a lot of pesto, and you can go wild with pesto. You can really, it's one of the recipes you can experiment the most with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I love a good Parmesan cheese in there as well.
You know what I do? Oh, that's what I forgot to say about the Parmesan cheese is when I'm processing the pesto and jarring it and freezing it, I don't put the Parmesan cheese in at that point. When I thaw my pesto to eat it is when I add the Parmesan cheese. So I add the cheese fresh. That's another thing though about whether the product is high risk or low risk is that we don't sell it with cheese. And we tell people, you know, just add, when you thaw it out to eat it, you know, add Parmesan cheese if you want.
That's pesto is one of the ways that we, you know, utilize our leftover product probably the most. And we make the pesto and we put it in Ziploc bags and we like flatten it out in the freezer. So then it's so easy whenever you're cooking to open the bag and just crack off a chunk of it.
Wow, this is exciting. I think I missed the pesto train, guys.
Oh man, pesto is so good.
Try it for dinner tonight. You'll be like, whoa, that's the best.
I think I will.
And I want to also go back to a point that Mish made about leftover product and being able to donate it. This is not something that we experimented with, but I've just recently seen people, they posted about it in the Facebook group that they take it to the food bank after the farmer's market and they get a receipt for it, and they get a receipt for the retail value of their product, and they're able to write that off. So that retail value, that's their cost of production plus their time and their extra profit margin they put in on it as well. So they're able to reduce that off their taxable income for the year, which is, you know, one way to kind of, if you're gonna lose money, kind of just wipe the slate clean, and then it's just not a loss at all. So definitely something to look into if you're growing right now and you're coming home with some extra product.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Speaking of taxable income, I'm under the impression that at least in New York or maybe the United States, that any raw agricultural product, there's no sales tax on. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Even processed, I believe, in the United States, even processed food items, I don't think are taxable.
I was under the impression that anything that has been processed is taxable. So like if you're selling coffee grounds in a bag for people to make coffee at home, then there's no tax on that, sales tax. But if you're selling somebody like a pre-made coffee, then there is tax on that. And I think it has a lot to do with whether the product is ready to eat or not.
Yeah, ready to eat. Yep, that's the key.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome. That was a good conversation on farmers markets. There's a lot to it, and
Is there any questions about markets?
yeah, I haven't seen any come through specifically about what we talked about or about markets in the comments that we didn't already answer.
I think everybody's going crazy about the pesto right now, as am I in my head.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can get you a base recipe for sure, Robert.
Totally.
Do you guys use pine nuts in the recipe?
So they're
No way,
expensive.
man. Those are too expensive.
Okay.
Walnut, sunflower seeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I use walnuts and sunflower seeds. Is that what you said, Nate?
Yeah, that's mostly what we use. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
But try different nuts too. Like, that's why it's funny for me. I really think that most people really think pesto is this one kind of recipe. You know, there's pine nuts, there's basil,
Yeah.
garlic, whatever. Man, just wait till you try all these other flavors and different things. You know, try cashews, although cashews are expensive too. But
Yeah.
I like walnuts. They're my favorite.
It's a great way to incorporate wild foods into your diet as well that are stuff that's super bitter, like dandelion greens or
Nettles.
yeah, nettles. Yep.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I use pumpkin seeds too, or hemp hearts. You can put all this stuff in.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you sprout your seeds before you add them in? You don't soak them either?
Like the pumpkin seeds or the sunflower seeds.
Right, yeah.
Use shelled sunflower seeds.
Shelled. Yeah, even shelled. You can soak those beforehand and it kind of activates the seeds and they start to release all their enzymes and everything.
Yeah. Try it. Experiment.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, one thing we kind of got into in that conversation was talking about, one of the big values of farmers market is to build a customer base and through subscription sales. So why don't we transition a little bit into the talking about subscription sales and any random questions you guys have. I've seen a couple just random stuff that is kind of off topic. We'll try and get to those at the end. We'll try and make a little bit of time at the end to just kind of jump around to some of the random stuff. But to keep the conversation going on our topics we wanted to cover at first, we'll just keep going with it. So let's dive a little bit into subscription sales or CSA. Basically private sales, not at a farmer's market, not at a grocery store, direct to consumer, and talk about that a little bit.
Well, let me just say I would not be in business right now if that was not my model. Although I would probably just change things up and try to figure out a new way, but that is like my core business. That was tremendous for me. I remember in the beginning, I thought I was going to sell to chefs, but I realized I wanted to sell to people. So the farmers markets did play a big role in meeting some of these people right off the bat, and brand awareness and letting people know that these products are available in the local areas. And I would just try to get people to subscribe on a weekly basis is really my business. I have one customer that I do bi-weekly because it was my mom's friend. Anybody else who asks, I really don't do any bi-weekly orders just because it's a little bit trickier to schedule out the grow cycles for that because then you're like a week on and week off. So that's one of the great aspects of doing a weekly subscription, is that each day of the week, I'm just doing the same thing. It's the same amount of trays that I'm starting for each variety for each day. And it's worked out really well. The way I do it is I offer free delivery, and that works for me. I don't think it'll work for everybody, but I think it can work for a lot of people. And really what you're looking for if you want to do a free delivery option is, one, you're definitely going to want to have a minimum order. So that way you're making at least the amount of money to cover some of the costs of your drive. Two is having an efficient delivery route. So going from house to house, and preferably having all the houses either close to each other or in the same general area, helps a lot, because now you're sharing the delivery cost. A food place like a Chinese food store, where they get an order that comes in, or a few orders, and then they go out and deliver, 1 to 3 at a time. That's a totally different model than what I'm doing. I'm getting people in, and I have delivery routes for each day, where I'm going to 20 to 30 people's homes, and including health food stores actually in these deliveries. And I'm just going from house to house. So on average, I think each house is probably less than 10 minutes away from each other. So if you can do 6 orders in 1 hour, and your minimum order is $20, you're looking at, what is that? $120 for an hour. So an hour for paying my employee, I pay them $14 an hour. And what's been really lucky for me is they're actually using their own car too. So that cost is completely out of the way. And they also get to be comfortable in using their own car rather than using a stranger's car, or like a big delivery truck or something. So that's nice. And I pay my employees who are driving a little bit more, since they're using their own car compared to harvesting, just to keep it fair. But I mean, $14 for 1 hour, and you're making $120. Really, what I've figured out is the delivery cost for the products is about 10% of the total revenue, which is still great. You're left over with 90%. You're only sacrificing 10, and the value of having it delivered to a person's home for free is incredible. And so I have a $20 minimum for my weekly deliveries. And I find that the people's average order is probably around 30. But that's also taking into account that I'm working with a few health food stores, which have higher orders, around 100 and stuff like that. So that's something to consider with those numbers as well. One thing that's helped me a lot is having my mixed boxes. So my sampler box and my Sunny sampler box, where I'm putting about 5 different products, 5 different microgreens in one box, and it just happens to be $20. So it's an easy way because also people don't really know what they want, I find, because these products are so new. Yeah. So when you can say, look, I have this mixed box, it's the favorite of all my customers, it's my best seller, it's $20, so you're covered on that minimum charge for your delivery. That it's an easy way just to get people in. It's free delivery, $20. You get a variety of flavors, a variety of nutrients. So that's worked really well for me. And
that is a big key point I think you just made. Make it easy for them to get signed up. And that's just like having that option where they get everything, they meet the minimum. It's easy to, that's just, I love that, man. That's really good. Yeah.
Somebody just asked me at the farmer's market if I sell individual quantities or just the sampler boxes. At the farmer's markets, I switch it and I go backwards. So at the farmer's markets, I'm doing just the individual $5 packs, and then I do a 5 for $20 deal. So when they buy 4, they get 1 free. And that essentially is pretty close to what comes in the sampler boxes, but it's individual. So people can come to the market and buy a $5 pack or, you know, whatever they want. Because the price point at a farmer's market is going to be different than a delivery service each week. People might not want to spend just $20 on microgreens at a farmer's market. So, but what I do at the farmer's market is I have one mixed box that I keep on my table right above the email list. So when people are putting in their emails, I'm explaining to them how I have my weekly delivery service, and that's how I do most of my business. And at that point, I pick up the mixed box and I show them, this is the fan favorite, this is the best seller. So it's a great option. But I really just have it on the table. If it gets to the end of the market, like within the last half hour, and somebody wants to buy it specifically, I'll sell it for $20. If not, if it doesn't sell, I usually have, and this goes back to when we were talking about not only communicating and building relationships with customers at the market, but building relationships with the vendors. Because what I would do is I would have at least one vendor at the market where they loved that mixed box. So at the end of the market, I would be able to sell that mixed box to a vendor. So now you have customers out of the vendors as well, and you're building relationships with the vendors as well. There's this really cool old dude. He's like 70 years old. His name is Bill, and he has a homemade soap product. And I was able to develop such a good relationship with this guy. Like, I consider him a friend. He's 70 years old and I'm 26, and he's just the man. And we talk about music, and it's a really, really rewarding experience to be able to have relationships like that. But the vendors, they're going to be there every week. So it's really fun to build relationships with them as well.
Hey, Don, I have a couple questions for you. How do you have your subscription customers pay? Like, are they paying every week, or do they prepay for a certain amount, or how does that work?
It's paid every week. I think that's a good way to do it if you have proper software. Monthly could be a cool idea as well, because then you're kind of like locking them in for the month. But on the other hand, then they're locked in for the month, and that could be stressful for them. So I like doing it weekly. It takes all the pressure off. If they have to go on vacation and miss 1 week, it's no problem. I just pause the order. So I use Square. Square is a really cool option because, one, you can use it at the farmer's market for point of sale. So you can have a little card reader where you're ringing people up with cards. That's a great option for people who don't want to use cash or run out of cash at the market. Because some people do use all their cash at the market, and then they get to your table and they're like, oh, I have no cash. Hey, no problem. I have a card reader. You can just swipe a card. So that's cool. You get to use it at the farmer's market as well. Another great thing for using Square at the farmer's market is that, oh yeah, I see you have your card reader in your hand. Yeah.
I have two.
Yep. So that big box, you guys, for those of you who don't know, that can take Apple Pay and things like that. And then it can also take the chips. There's like a little slit in the side. And then the smaller reader is swipeable. Yep. So that's where you insert the chips. And then the smaller one you plug into your phone and you can just swipe the cards. So between both of those, you can take swipes, cards, swipes, chips, and Apple Pay, which is really cool. The small reader, Square will actually send you for free right when you sign up. So that's great. I think the chip reader and the Apple Pay, I think you might have to pay like $50 or something for that, but it's good to have. And also, when you sign up for Square, if you sign up through a link that somebody else who's already using Square through their link, you actually get free processing for the first $1,000. So if anybody's signing up for Square, I recommend reaching out to me, Mitch, or I don't know if Nate uses it, and we can actually get free processing for both of us for the first $1,000. So that helps as well if you guys want to do it with us rather than signing up solo on the website. So yeah, that's what's great about the market is you get to swipe the cards. And then also when I'm taking cash sales at the market as well, I'm also logging in Square all the sales. So even if it's not a card sale, if somebody pays with cash, you still log it in Square. So that way at the end, there's no guesswork counting cash and trying to figure out how much money you made at that market. It actually tells you a total of everything that you made. It tells you itemized exactly what products you sold, how many. It also tells you if you're doing like a coupon or a special deal, like I do the 5 for 20 deal, it tells you how many of those you've sold. So all like the coupons and there's a specific name for it. It's like a line item on there. What's that, Nate?
Is it like promo codes or?
Not promo codes. I forget the exact name, but it's basically like the money that discounts. It's the discounts that you give people throughout the whole market. And then sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you could also put that in to like an inventory list. I don't know if you do that with yours, but you can actually in the Square app on your phone, you can create an inventory list. So you can put all the products that you sell into your inventory list and literally ring them in like that. So for example, maybe you're selling pea shoots, sunflower shoots, radish, and broccoli, whatever. You know, you just put those all in as an inventory. You could also put in your sampler pack in there, and then it's just clicking on that button like as if you're ringing it in as a cashier. And then at the end, it tracks how much of each one that you sold.
Yep. So you want to put in all your items beforehand. So that way you can just click them and then charge rather than like typing in the individual money value. Because one, it'll go faster, but two, it'll itemize it so you know exactly of each one that you sold. I use my phone at the farmers markets,
Me too.
but I mean, bringing an iPad and doing it that way, I mean, that looks badass to have an iPad at the market. You look really official. And you could potentially also use the iPad for taking in emails and doing it that way. I know one potential problem that I've had is, I mean, after a while, you'll realize that people's handwriting is not the greatest.
Terrible.
It's like sometimes hard to read. So you can see like on mine, I write, please write neatly.
We have a template that comes with the course, I think, of a sign up list, and it says very big, please write clearly on the top.
Yeah, it's important because if you type it in wrong, there's no value there. So that could be cool, putting it right into the iPad. But for the weekly recurring orders, I use Square, but it's the invoicing part of Square. And I do recurring invoices. So you put in the customer's information, it's stored right on file, so you have it forever. And then you set their order with those same items that you're selling at the farmer's market. It's the same items that you use in the invoice online. So you put in exactly what the customer is ordering each week, and then you set how often they're doing it. So if you're set up, or if you'd like to do a bi-weekly option or maybe once a month, you're more than welcome to do that. But you can set that. So you set it to either weekly or bi-weekly or however often you like. And you also set it up where you actually pick the day that they get charged as well. So a good idea, which I haven't done yet, I guess there's probably benefits and drawbacks, would be like charging your customer the day before. So if they try to like bail the day before, it's like, no, you were already charged. My customers know if they try to bail the day before, I really don't let them, because I pack all the orders the day before. So I say, I'm sorry, like you can't cancel right now. The order is already packed. And I haven't really had any backlash. If somebody like freaks out or goes crazy over that, I just say, okay, no problem. You know, you can eat it yourself and just avoid the hassle. But I actually charge everybody on the day of their delivery. And Square, for the recurring invoices, Square is going to decide what time it goes out. And actually it changes with daylight savings. So right now, everybody gets charged at 10 a.m. on the day of their delivery. But when daylight savings happens, they actually get charged at 9 a.m. for their deliveries. And it's nice because right at 10, you get to go into your Square right on the website or in the app, and you can see exactly how much money you made for that day. And you can also see if there is any invoices that weren't paid. Sometimes people's cards get changed or they don't have enough money in the account. So it shows you what was outstanding, and you can then go say, hey, Kim, your card wasn't charged this week. Just wanted to let you know if you have any problems, let me know and I can help you out. So that's cool as well. And then also, if you have a customer who's really, really against using their credit card, you can either make a mental note or have it written down where you need to get cash from them. But what I like to do, so I don't forget, is I actually write an invoice for them, but I send it to their email instead of charging their card. So that way, when I get the cash out of their cooler for that day, then I can go into Square and say, this was paid with cash. And now it's going into your total and you're never forgetting about it as well.
And then you're able to take the data from Square and import that right into your QuickBooks for easy accounting, right?
Oh, big time. That is huge. Most of my payments do go through Square, and I have it linked right into QuickBooks. So, and you can actually make rules in QuickBooks where it says if the statement that comes into your bank account says like Square PPD, whatever it says, it'll automatically put it into revenue, however you have your accounting set up, but revenue for your company for the weekly deliveries or whatever. And that's a really great way to do it. You don't even have to worry about your accounting. It gets done automatically.
One thing I would just add is this big Square, for us anyways, we can take debit cards as well, not just credit cards. I don't know, do you take debit on these ones, on this one?
The software seems to take debit cards just fine. I thought that the small reader could take debit cards as well. Is that not true?
Not for me. The small one is just credit cards for us.
Interesting. I've never run into a problem. Come to think of it, I have run into a problem here or there. I wonder if it's because it was a debit card.
Maybe, because so with the big one, we tapped the debit cards. It's a tap, and credit cards get inserted.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
Technology, 2019.
Yeah. Another thing with this is when you purchase this, for us, it was $60 Canadian. It comes with a charger. So you plug it in and charge it at your house before you would take it to the farmers markets or on your delivery or anything like that. And then you sync it up. Well, what we do is sync it up through Bluetooth on our phone. And that's how it runs for us.
That's cool.
Pretty easy.
Dawn, can you walk us through the onboarding process? So what happens exactly when you're talking to someone at the farmer's market or whatever, and they say, oh, that sounds good, I want to sign up for that delivery program. What happens then?
When they say that, you don't let them leave your table. You say, all right, let's get you signed up. And right away, you pull out your phone, you open up the Square app, you type in create new customer. I haven't been in Square in a while, actually. I'm not even logged in. But you click add new customer. Forget about the email list. If they want to sign up on the spot, you don't even need their email on the email list because you're actually going to put it right into Square. Add new customer. Then I don't like anything to take too long. I like everything to be quick, seamless. So what I do is I add the customer, then I go into the notes and I put what they want for their weekly order instead of actually creating the invoice on the spot because I don't want it to take too long. So create the customer, go into your notes in the customer, and then type in their order there. Then take a screenshot on your phone of the customer's information, not their information, but like their like the personal page where you just put in their name and their email and everything. That way, at the end of the market, you have screenshots on your phone of all the different customers that you know to go look at and make the invoices for. So, so now you have their information. What you also want to do, if you're in person with them, this is a great opportunity to store their card on file. All my customers, I basically require them to have their cards stored on file because I'm a big proponent of having everything as efficient as possible. I don't prefer my customers to put in their email every week. It makes it easier for them and me if it goes through automatically. So if you're at the farmer's market, within the user profile that you just created, you hit add card and they can swipe it in with the card readers that Mish was just showing you guys. And now their card is stored on file and they're ready to go. If their card, if for some reason they didn't swipe their card at the market or they didn't have their card, what's going to happen with Square is they're going to get an email the day of their first delivery and they have to put in their card on that first delivery. Luckily, we're dealing with people who eat microgreens who are typically good people. So I go out and I deliver to them anyway, even if their card wasn't put on file. And oftentimes they're going to be putting their card on file like that night or the next day. And I wouldn't freak out about it. Chances are it's going to be $20 anyway. So there's nothing to freak out about. But I prefer getting it on file at the time you're making their account if possible. Once you have their information, you want to, however you're scheduling your grow. So I have that spreadsheet that we were able to look at last mastermind. So I go in there, I copy all their information from Square into the spreadsheet as well. I put in their order into the spreadsheet. So now my grow cycle is now updated for what I need to be growing for them as well. And then I'm also at the same time creating the recurring invoice for whatever day delivery they are. So since I have different delivery days and I keep it as efficient as possible, I'm figuring out where they're located, which delivery day to put them in, and I'm adding them in accordingly and putting their invoice to repeat on that day. After that, I send them an email, which is just kind of like the intro email, letting them know how it works, to leave a cooler the first day, that they're going to get a text message the night before of their delivery each week to remind them. And also that delivery can take up to 2 weeks to start because none of my crops are over 2 weeks. But more often than not, I can start them up right away. So I let them know that it might come, this coming week, or it could take up to 2 weeks. And yeah, that's.
And then the welcome email probably has additional information. You don't want to overwhelm them at first. So the welcome email, you probably have stuff like setting their cooler out and stuff like that, or.
Yeah, it's setting the cooler out, letting them know when the bill is going to come, how the billing works. If they haven't put their card on file yet, I'm asking them to please, when they store their card, when they pay their invoice, I'm asking them to please check the box that stores the card on file. This way they don't have to worry about it each week and it goes through automatically. I let them know again about it could take up to 2 weeks, but it could be as soon as this coming week. And that's pretty much all the information that I have in that intro email.
And if anyone on this call is a little bit like me, where you start to see these systems that have multiple pieces and your brain just starts to kind of shut down out of like a fear response or something, just know that Don is like thinking about putting together a package of sharing all of this stuff and exactly how he runs this program. So if that's something you guys would be interested in him doing, please type that in a chat box and encourage Don to put this together, because his system is really efficient. It's really awesome.
Yeah, let me know, guys. I've already started working on the spreadsheet. Actually, I started working on it yesterday, and it's gonna be a lot of work to get it to where it'll be easy enough for you guys to add in your own crops and your own customers and all that. I'm realizing as I'm going through the spreadsheet that I know exactly how to use it because I made it. So it's definitely going to be quite a bit of work. Definitely let me know if you guys want this. And I think that'll be fun.
They're begging for it.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I love the way that you run your subscription program. I think I don't know, it sounds super smooth and like it works really, really well as like your main way of selling microgreen.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important. I would like, to be honest, at this point, I would be so stressed out if I didn't have that spreadsheet and like have all these systems in place. Like, man, I would be a disaster without it. So I know how much value it's provided me. So I can't wait to be able to put something together for you all to use.
I think this is one of the best opportunities for a microgreens grower who lives in a big city right now or a populated area. It's like such an untapped market. There's just so much potential to grow these programs. I mean, Don's got a 6-figure annual revenue from this just delivery program. It's absolutely insane. And, he was in a market, he has a huge microgreens grower nearby that was, selling to a lot of restaurants and stuff. So he just kind of did something different and went direct to home delivery. And it's such an efficient system that, there's not near as much guesswork and shifting conditions as there is when you're selling to restaurants and farmers markets. Like restaurants, you'll get chefs dropping the ball and not placing orders, and farmers markets, you'll get crazy weather events. But with a home delivery program, it's exactly what you're growing every week, and that it's not going to be wasted. Like, it's so dialed in. I think it's a massive opportunity for people.
Absolutely. And especially cities, man. Like if you're in an area where there's a lot of people in one area, that just improves the efficiency of your delivery route. And that's where the opportunity lies. If you're someplace where it's more spread out, like maybe upstate, it's going to be a lot harder because in between each delivery, it could be a half hour. And I mean, in order to pay for that half hour, these orders are going to have to be pretty big to make it worth it. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about this a lot too, because realistically, it's not an option for everybody, and that kind of stinks. But I think if you are in an area that's more spread out, a good secondary option for this, really what you want to do is you want to increase the amount of revenue per drop. So instead of going to each individual house, you team up with either a business or maybe a really friendly customer who's open to using their house, and you place drop-off points. Instead of each individual house, you have a drop-off point. So if you can drop off 5, 6, a dozen orders at one drop-off point, that's say over $100 or a couple $100 at one drop-off, it makes the drive worth it.
Yep, and if you're in a big city too, you might think about there's all these offices. Even a small or medium-sized city, there's lots of big companies that have kitchens with big refrigerators in there, and a lot of these companies have wellness programs. They want their employees to be healthier and eat healthier. So think about whether you can put together a little presentation and show people how to grow microgreens and how some simple ways to use them in their cooking. Maybe this is something you can put on a quick like lunch and learn presentation, and then have people sign up at the office and you bring their deliveries to the office. So that could be a way to get 10 customers where every week you just bring them to that office fridge and they get to pick them up there at work. So like that could be massive potential if you're in a big city.
I think that's an enormous opportunity. Not only are you dropping it all off in one place, but now you're kind of like segueing into B2B, business to business. So you can even have like a very thorough, concise system that like a health program that you can go into the business, talk to a decision maker and say, look, everybody's talking about health right now. It's very obvious. So you can go to a business and say, look, your employees are going to perform better if they're eating better because they're going to be healthier and their minds and bodies are going to be working better. So you can even get the decision makers to even potentially split the order with the customer, making it easier for the customer to sign up. So if you, so say a customer is on a $20 health program, and the boss pays $10 towards it because they want to improve their business and improve the productivity of their workers. And now the consumer only has to pay $10. That's a game changer as well. And then you can get potentially bigger orders as well because it's cheaper for them too. And if you're in a situation where you can start implementing different products, start doing like pre-made salads, like Dancing Turtle Ithaca does. Mm-hmm. Or if you can start doing juices, like what I want to start doing very, very soon, then that opens up a whole new business and revenue stream and a whole new model that can be absolutely tremendous.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep. And with these delivery programs, typically you're sending out an email the night before or the day before, whatever, reminding people that their cooler's out or whatever. If you have a farm where you sell a bunch of different products, that can be also another way to sell those products just by including in that delivery email some buy now buttons for like, a crate of tomatoes or, a pound of squashes, like whatever. You can add vegetables into those things and people can add them onto their orders as well.
Yeah, that's such a cool idea, putting real food in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Yep, it's going to be huge, man. People are going to start doing it now everywhere. All these people on this call today are going to start implementing this. I have a feeling.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. I was just about to say, it's going to be us and the people on this call.
It's going to be booming.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear about our, we run a CSA program. I'm really seeing a difference now between like a traditional CSA program and a subscription program. So I can share what we do, which is substantially different than what Dawn does. If you guys are interested.
Yeah, definitely. I want to hear.
Yeah, we're quite a lot smaller scale than Dawn is right now. So I think this could work for people who are living, like we live rural, we're small town. Our town has about, in the winter when we run our big delivery program, we're sitting at about 4,000 people probably here in Rossland. So this would work really well for people who are not necessarily metro or who want to start off smaller and like really build up and get some practice. So for us, we run it as a traditional community supported agricultural program. So there's a start date, there's an end date, and people prepay upfront. So what we did last year was we ran a 12-week delivery program, and people signed up either for like 1 bag of microgreens a week or two bags of microgreens a week. And already, just to let you know a few changes we're going to make this coming winter, we're going to run a longer program because at the end of the 12-week program, people were like, no, what are we going to do now? And they were like crushed that the program was over. So we're going to run probably a 20-week program because the interest is there. And we're not going to limit it to 1 or 2 bags. We're going to have a price point for all the way up to 5 bags because, and I'll get into this in a minute, people had the opportunity to order more each week if they wanted to. And we found that there's a certain number of customers who absolutely refuse to buy greens at the grocery store in the winter, and instead they just want more microgreens because it's locally produced and super nutritious and stuff like that. So we're going to give more options. You could pre-purchase 1 bag a week or 2 bags a week, all the way up to 5 bags a week. So people sign up. So our program, our delivery program coincides with the end of our summer farmers market season. So our summer farmers market runs every single week. And the week that finishes, which is the end of October, sometime at the end of October, the next week is when our delivery program will start. So people don't miss out on their microgreens. Oh my goodness. So we have a sign up period. It usually lasts, we put a time limit on that. I find that if you have an open-ended sign up period, you're not going to fill your CSA. So we predetermine how many shares we're selling. So this past winter we did a 30-person share. So we delivered to 30 houses every week. And what we found was that we probably could have done 50 houses. Like there was that much interest. So this year we're gonna do probably, we're gonna go quite a lot bigger and do probably a 70-person share this coming winter. But we'll give about a 6-week time period for people to sign up. And if people sign up within like the first 2 weeks, they get a bonus. They get a couple free bags, or we have little gifts that we give out or something like that. So one benefit right off the bat to having people prepay is you get all the money up front. So for us last winter, that having all that money up front allowed us to invest in our grow room. We completely gutted our grow room. We built new shelving, we ordered new lights, and just like bam, like it transformed the way that we were able to produce and how much we were able to produce, which was essential for us to be able to make that program work. We also took on a whack of new restaurants. So at the same time as delivering to 30 houses, we were delivering to 6 restaurants, usually 5, sometimes 6 restaurants every week, and also to our retail outlet, which is, we didn't use a grocery store. We actually used our local bakery. They sold our microgreens for us. The other bonus to having people prepay is you don't have to worry about the money every week. In some instances that works. In some instances it doesn't. You really have to manage your money because you're getting all this money up front, but that's also paying like your labor and everything like that. So if you use all that money at the beginning, you need to remember, you know, you've already been paid for all this product. So you're not getting that weekly paycheck from your deliveries. So it's a little bit about balancing and understanding how to use your money, and just having a really good, clear picture of what you need that money for. For us, it's just my partner and I. We don't have any employees to pay or anything like that. So it works for us really easily that way. I can see potentially there being hiccups if you do have employees that you need to pay, right? Because you need to have that steady flow of income coming in. What we found for us was the revenue that we were making on a weekly basis from our restaurants and our retail outlet was enough of a weekly paycheck for us, that having our CSA prepay, it wasn't a negative thing for us. It was actually really positive because, like I say, we invested, you know, $5,000 or something right into our grow room right off the bat. And so we like to be able to do that. Plus we bought a ton of bulk seed and got a cheaper price on the seed and stuff like that, all up front. And so what we did was each week on Sundays, so our delivery day was Thursday. So each week on Sunday, we sent out basically an order form where people chose the variety of microgreens that they wanted that week. So we were able to give people an option. And we tried to switch it up a little bit to keep things interesting. And then we also used these order forms. People could add on an extra bag if they wanted to. Or we also sell a line of like specialty preserves. And so people could add on preserves if they wanted preserves that week. We also sell like farmhouse greeting cards, which feature pictures of our food products. So people could, like, extra products people could purchase. And most oftentimes of our 30 customers, we had 12 to 15 people purchasing add-ons. And then they pay cash or they send an e-transfer. People have to submit their order form by Wednesday morning so that we have from Wednesday morning until we start delivering on Thursday to get everything prepared. I feel like the first question people are going to ask us about those weekly orders is, well, how do you know if you have enough of a certain variety? What if everybody wants sunflowers that week or something like that? Or, you know, how do you know what you're growing for that specific week? And what we found was that we would grow, we knew how many people were purchasing. So 30 people are purchasing 4-ounce bags. So we know the minimum quantity that we needed. And we tried to just grow you know, 5 to 6 trays, sometimes 8 or 10 trays on depending on what variety. We tried to grow more of each variety than what we needed. And to offset all that extra microgreens that we would have left, whatever was left over after our households ordered was what we packaged up and sold at our retail outlet. So all those we did one harvest. It was all harvested Thursday morning and packaged on Thursday. And what we were taking to sell at our retail outlet changed every single week depending on what our CSA houses ordered. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So having somewhere else to sell your microgreens in our scenario, how we run our CSA, is pretty essential because your orders are actually changing every week. But it worked really, really well. Yeah. And so I don't know if I'm missing much from that.
I'm just curious why you guys decided to do the limited time period. Like, what are the benefits of that to you guys as opposed to doing like a year-round program?
The only reason we put time periods on our programs is because we're primarily farming vegetables. So our winter CSA delivery ends when we're starting getting ready for like the vegetable farm. So a lot of our lights and our indoor grow space has to go to vegetable starts and that kind of a thing. Yep. So we start to do a switch over to, like I say, we're primarily growing vegetables, like that's the main business for us. So that's really like the time period, why we have restrictions on the time period. But like I say, we're gonna extend it for the winter. And then we switch over to do a summer CSA, and the summer CSA includes, you know, all the vegetables and stuff that we sell as well. The other thing that will change for us this winter is that we're building heated greenhouses on the farm. So we're going to start to have other greens available for our winter CSA too. So it might start to look more like people, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work this year. We might drop the whole ordering and you're going to get like basically a fresh box each week, and there'll be spinach and kale probably like fresh from the garden, as well as a big amount of microgreens too. So yeah, but it's a neat way, kind of a different way than the subscription service basically that Dawn runs. And I know a lot of other microgreen growers do that type of subscription as well. There's one who operates close to us. He's about an hour and a half away, and I think he's running more of a similar subscription like Dawn is, where, you know, it's a year-round. All he's doing is microgreens. He doesn't grow vegetables or anything like that. So he runs a year-round subscription where people, you know, place an order every week kind of thing. And yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So our program that we did, I have information about it in the online course. If you guys go inside there, there's a module, I think it's called like Microgreens CSA Bonus. And that explains how we ran our program. That has downloads for the advertising flyers that we used. It has sign up sheet download, I believe. There's there's the email templates, the welcome emails we'd send, and the emails that we would send before each delivery. So you guys can definitely go in there and check that out. Some things that we did differently were where we had a fixed price, and they would just get as many microgreens up to that price as they wanted. So for instance, if they were paying $20 per delivery, then we would give them $20 worth of microgreens. So that would be, you know, it would look like more if they were getting more inexpensive microgreen per quantity, right, like a sunflower or something. And if they're getting something that's a little finer, it would be a smaller quantity.
Yeah.
So there's kind of 3 different ways we did it here. Dawn's got a fixed price for a fixed product. Mish has a fixed price and they kind of choose their product. And I have the fixed price where I choose their product. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And another thing that we did was bike delivery, which made it nice. It can be, if you're doing a lot of deliveries, sometimes parking can be challenging. you know, especially in big cities, it can be hard to find if it's a very dense urban environment. So that's something you could also consider. As a bicycle, it's easy just to jump up on the curb and hop out. And we have an electric bike, which makes it really easy to get around. That thing, you can just throttle only for like 8 miles. Like you don't even have to pedal if you don't want. So that's something else to consider. And it's all part of the story. Like we talked about in the last one, you know, the value of your product isn't just in the actual product itself. People love a good story. So bike delivered microgreens is something pretty cool. They love to tell their friends about it. And that word of mouth can be a great way to get more customers.
A couple of things came to mind that I would recommend. So for us, because we had a certain amount of shares, we had 30 shares this winter. We knew in advance, everybody prepaid. There was nobody adding on throughout the 12-week program. So in terms of your delivery route, and Dawn kind of touched on this a little bit, I think, is be very organized with your delivery route. It needs to be pre-planned. You literally need to print out a map. You need to mark all your houses. You need to see where they are, and you need to understand where you're going in advance. So we made the mistake. I made the mistake. I was the delivery person in mine and my partner's business relationship. So I made the mistake of assuming that, yeah, I live in a small town. I know where these 30 houses are. No big deal. I can just go out on delivery day number 1 and do this. No problem. No, you can't. Like you really need to, if you run a program like we do, where you have a certain amount of shares and a time period, it starts in this week and ends in this week, absolutely go out the week before and drive your route at least once, because it will save you time and gas and effort and frustration in the long run. Like there was 5 houses on that first delivery day that I just could not find. No matter which way I went, they should have been right there. I GPSed them, whatever, they weren't there. And there's always complications like that. Another thing to consider is, so we said we're delivering to our houses on Thursdays you could choose your delivery time. We either delivered between 12 and 2 to your house, or we delivered between 4 and 6 at night in the evening. And so customers could choose which time they wanted to be delivered. They really appreciated that. What we found was that the elderly retired folks always chose the lunchtime delivery, because then we get to see them face to face and they liked that interaction. And the folks who were still working chose 4 to 6. And mostly people are choosing which time they're home because they want to see you, they want to say hi, and they want to have that personal exchange. But the one thing that I learned about setting those time limits, so this is, keep in mind, a winter program, a winter delivery program. I live in the mountains. I'm at 1,000 meters, and we get a lot of snow. And our delivery day was Thursdays, and it was a blizzard every freaking Thursday. I swear to God. I became the world's best winter driver because of this program. I got stuck in 8 people's driveways where literally they had to put sand down and push me out. It was ridiculous. And I was almost always running late. And so just account for that, like basically what I'm trying to say is if you're selling something, I'm selling a delivery that's happening between this time period, you better make sure that you can be there in that time period, or acknowledge the fact that there could be things that make you late. If you live in a big metro area, maybe you don't want to deliver during rush hour. Like that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Who knows though? I don't live in a metro area, so I don't want to speak to that. But consider things like that as you're planning your delivery program. Like you need to have a route that makes sense. And if you cannot make a delivery route make sense, then maybe delivery is not the best option, and maybe you want to consider having drop-off points like Dawn mentioned. For us, we scheduled our restaurant delivery around our household delivery. So we delivered to everyone on Thursdays, restaurants, retail, and houses, and we just scheduled it all in. And, you know, by the time 12 weeks came around, by the time we were on our last week of our household delivery, like we were pretty bang on with our times and everything like that. But this is just all stuff that you want to really organize ahead of time, just to make it as efficient as possible. Because when you, for example, like when we're talking about farmers markets and we're considering all the time and planning that goes into your farmers market, and the fact that you need to pay yourself for all that preparation time, it works the same way with like your CSA and your delivery program. You know, like you want to be able to pay yourself for your delivery time, or in Don's instance, he has to pay his employee. He wants his employee to be delivering within an hour or two or whatever he has set out for his business plan. He doesn't want that running an extra 4 hours, because that's not what he's planned for. So just being super, super organized so that you can be as efficient as possible, because time is money.
Yep. And Mish, no, that was a really good thought. The rush hour thing, it's something that I avoid at all costs.
Right.
Last week, my driver was out. It resulted in a problem that I'll talk about in a second. But on the second delivery day, I had to harvest before going out on delivery, where usually I would go out on delivery at like 9 a.m. So I had to harvest in the morning, and then I went out on delivery, and I got caught in rush hour, like 4:30 o'clock, and it just adds so much time, and it's just painful. So that was not a bad thought at all. That was super on point. Another thing that you mentioned was complications during the delivery route. Just last week, I had a complication. My delivery driver has been doing it for me week after week. And one of my customers moved from a house to an apartment, like in like a community complex. So he's been doing it and it's been fine, but I've never done that delivery. So I got in there, and this person was up on the 3rd floor in this complex, and I had no idea where to go. The security guards kind of like gave me mediocre directions, and they didn't know who I was because they've been seeing Kevin each week. So I had to go back and forth to security 3 times to figure out where to go. I was running around the building trying to find their room number. Meanwhile, I was inside the building on the 3rd floor. So that was one complication that happened last week. As far as my delivery times go, I don't give my customers an option really. I don't give them an option of delivery day or delivery time. Actually, in my automated text message that goes out the night before, I say deliveries happen between 9 and 4. So that way it's just basically the whole day. Like it can happen anytime during the day. And then 2 great softwares. Well, one's very mediocre. One is a good software. MapQuest. If you go to mapquest.com and click on their route planner, that's how I figure out where to place my new customers into the delivery route. I'll copy in my spreadsheet about 15 orders of where I think it's going to be placed. It pulls it up in the map. Then I add the new customer, and I can see where the new customer is, and then I rearrange it and figure out where to place them within the MapQuest route planner. So I definitely use that tool. And then the tool that I use for my deliveries is called GetSwift. In order to be able to use it properly for the deliveries, it has to be like set up properly with the admins who own the software. So I don't recommend anybody just go and try to use GetSwift. When I'm done putting together the package, it'll actually have instructions with how to set up GetSwift, and the spreadsheet will be able to be implemented with GetSwift almost right away. But what GetSwift does is I upload the orders the night before, and as the spreadsheet gets uploaded, the customer gets their text message, and that's actually the text message that's reminding them to leave a cooler the next day. And then GetSwift is on my phone, and what it does is it just has them in the list. So you can click on the person and then go like next, and go throughout the delivery route. And then the other benefit of the software is when I drop off the delivery, you hit complete order. And when you hit that complete order button, it actually texts the customer in real time as well. So I have plenty of customers who are at home and don't even leave a cooler. So even on a hot day, I just leave it on the front porch. I assume that they're home. They're getting the text message in real time. So right when it gets dropped off, they get notified and they can come out and grab the order. So.
And Don kind of went into that a little bit more, some more details on the program as well in the last mastermind, which you guys can always watch that replay. I think another key thing to the delivery program is having some sort of variety. Like Don, he has his variety packs. There's quite a few different things in there. Mish lets her customers kind of choose their variety. And we weren't growing a ton of different microgreens, but with the home delivery program, that was the one where we would grow the extra varieties, so they had a good variety. In our program, we switched it to be called Mighty Greens, because during the regular growing season, we would give them other greens as well, kale, basil, mustard greens, whatever, just so they could get more variety, salad mix. So that's important, especially if you're doing it year-round. People love to have a little variety. Most people do. Some people actually love to have the same thing every single time, but I found most people like a little bit of variety.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that was another thing. We always offered at least 2 mixes, one that was not so spicy and one that is spicy. And mixes are always a hit, the salad mixes. And we try to encourage people, like, use this as your salad mix in the wintertime. Like, you don't need to go buy a head of lettuce that is imported from Mexico to us. Like, you know, use this as your salad mix, and people catch on and they start to do that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and another thing you guys can do is look into if there's like a food hub CSA in your city. Some cities now, they have like a food hub that puts together their own CSA of a bunch of different farmer stuff from around the area. So if you could find something like that in your area and they don't have a microgreens producer, you could like immediately get yourself into a big delivery program or a big CSA subscription type program where you're growing a quantity every single week and have a huge customer base right off the bat. So that's something to look into. Your pricing is going to be a little bit lower because they take their cut, or your profit's going to be a little lower because they take their cut.
That could be worth it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And man, we didn't even get to we had some other big topics we kind of wanted to dive into here.
I think we would. I think those other topics I feel like are really hefty in and of themselves though too. I know, like, I would love to spend a lot of time talking about business planning with growers, because that was just such a benefit to like our business. I can't speak highly enough of doing a proper business plan. So I think the fact that we ran out of time is probably okay.
Yeah, and the other topic on pricing and cost of production and stuff, that is a super important thing, and it's a thing that a lot of people have trouble with, and we definitely want to give that the time it needs. So I don't think we're going to be able to really get in that at all today either.
One thing I will say that I would like to say about the pricing for our CSA program, so we charged $6 a bag, and this is the same for farmers markets or anything when we're selling just to the public. Our microgreen bags are always $6, but the quantity that is inside that bag changes depending on what the microgreen is. So, for example, if we were selling bags of sunflowers or radish or pea, they're getting a 4-ounce bag. If it's arugula or wasabi or cilantro or something like that, they're only getting 2 ounces. If it's a salad mix of some kind, typically, for the most part, they're getting 3 ounces because the base of that salad mix is going to be a cheaper microgreen like pea or fava bean or something like that. So just in case anybody was curious how we worked that out. And we maintain that across the board so that no matter if our customer purchases from the bakery downtown where we sell, you know, our retail outlet, if they buy a bag of microgreens there, or they buy a bag of our microgreens at the farmer's market, or they subscribe to our winter CSA program, it's $6 a bag across the board all the time. And we worked that out through doing cost of production on every variety of microgreen that we grow. But we just decided that's for another conversation, getting into to cost of, sorry, there's flies around me, cost of production. I'm like swinging wildly. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that about pricing for the CSA.
Kingsley had a question here about bags versus clamshells, and do they wilt in bags, having trouble getting bags to seal with tape. That's something you kind of talked about a little bit, I think, in the very first session of why you're using the bags over the clamshells, but would you want to talk on that real quick?
Just like a super quick answer, I have, I don't know, an aversion to hard plastic. I think that just doing a bit of quick market research in my community, I find that people reuse plastic bags more often than they reuse clamshells. And we don't use that, I know that tape that you're talking about to seal them, we use twist ties. So what we do is, if you put the microgreens into the bag and then you kind of scrunch up the top of the bag and kind of squish it down, it fills the bag with air, and then you twist it 5 times or 6 times and then twist tie it, and then it keeps it full of air. So it kind of protects like the microgreens a little bit. And almost every variety that we grow is staying fresh in those bags, in people's crispers, like in their drawers in their fridge for up to 2 weeks. Peas stay good in a bag for like a month. They're something else, but yeah, so that's what we find. It's really just, I don't know. I have something against. I have a personal something against clamshells.
Yeah, and Don, he's got his sampler packs that he has all these different varieties in. He doesn't want to put those in bags because they'll just mix up and it'll just be a mess in there, you know. So
yeah,
they definitely have their use. But when you're pre-selling a product, the packaging doesn't matter quite as much, you know, because a big part of clamshells is that they just look higher value on the table. But if people are already pre-buying them, they don't mind getting them in the cheaper packaging if they know they're helping save the environment.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I forgot like the most important component of our CSA, not aside from the microgreens themselves, is we actually offer a waste-free option. So people can, if they sign up for the waste-free option, we don't package in bags at all. They provide us with like Tupperware containers. And so before the program starts, they have to drop off 2 clean Tupperware, Rubbermaid, whatever containers to us. It could be an old yogurt container or ice cream container. It doesn't matter what it is to us, but we need 2 of them. They have to have your name on it and your address, like taped on it or written on it in a Sharpie. And so we drop off a full container and you give us an empty container. And we always have at least like 2 of your containers. And of our 30 households last year, I would say 24 of them signed up for the waste-free option. So there was only 6 customers who were getting their micros and bags anyways. And that was a huge draw for customers. Like there's a big thing going on in our community right now where everybody hates plastic and hates plastic bags. And granted, it's a good cause to get behind. So offering an option, like a package-free option, was a huge hit for us. And what we did was we took $5 off their subscription price just to save on packaging. Like packaging doesn't cost a ton of money. So, but we just knocked off $5 for them, and yeah, that worked really well.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's 3:29. That just flew by again. I'm always surprised how fast this goes by. I thought we would be able to cover all 4 of those topics easily, and we basically just got to 2 of them, and we want to give the other 2 justice, so we'll definitely roll those over into a future mastermind session. And I just want to remind you guys, this is something I announced in the first session, I believe. It's just really, there's a lot we talked about here. You know, we threw a lot out here. Just try and find 1 or 2 things from this session that you can implement before the next session starts or within the next month. Just focus on that. Try not to get too overwhelmed with all the ideas and try to do everything at once. Just, 1 or 2 things can make a big difference, and it's the long game. If you can implement 1 or 2 new things to build your business over the long term, it's going to have a huge impact. So I will get this recording posted someone took 7 pages of notes. That's amazing.
Wow, that's so
We need a way for
good.
people to share. We need a way for people to share their notes for these sessions. That would be awesome. I actually had someone write and send me an email that said they would love to be able to post comments on the recordings as well and have a discussion there. So I'm looking into adding
Oh,
like Facebook commenting system into the module underneath the videos. That's something I'm looking into right now.
That's cool.
And I will post a pesto recipe or maybe a video of me making pesto.
oh yeah.
I'll post that in the Facebook group under the recording as well for you guys.
I was gonna say too, if people think of like questions, they could always like that they wanted to ask us, they could always email you and you could connect with us. And I'm always happy to answer questions if people think of stuff, after.
Yeah, and I think at some point we need to make it so that people can book like a private coaching session with you guys if they ever want to dive even deeper into parts of your business. I think that would be amazing.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
All right, guys. Well, gosh.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Kinsley said pesto making with kids, and I said you got it. Kids can almost do all of the pesto making.
Yep, absolutely.
You can be doing other stuff.
Just keep their fingers out of that food processor.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, if we didn't get to your comments, I apologize. It's just, the conversation, it's really important, I think, for the conversation to not jump around too much and to, try and keep staying with the topic. So if you had any questions on here that were kind of off topic, I'll try and go through them and just see if I can dig up your email and email you individually. You can also always write me, Nate@microgreensfarmer.com, and I'll try and help you with any of your individual questions at any time. And everyone's excited for Dawn to start working on some tools for a subscription program, which is really exciting. So this is really great. This is building momentum, which is what happens in a mastermind. You're putting all these ideas and everyone coming together. It's just like, it's so amazing. You start to see so many ways to add value to your business and to our customers and stuff. So this is really cool. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Mish, for coming on here right after having a baby. That's amazing. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys all next time.
Cool. Good seeing you guys.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.